What do you think causes ineffectiveness in departmental meetings or meetings in any sense?
Meetings in any sense, whether in the corporate world or in the church, they need to have an agenda.
Right.
Everyone is busy. Everyone is busy. They've
Yes.
got their own social lives. They've got personal lives.
Families.
Their families.
Their businesses.
Their businesses.
Yes.
So when they are called to a meeting and there is no agenda, they don't know why they are there at the meeting.
Right.
It causes the meetings to be ineffective.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, there is no goal to that meeting. And also the reason for having agendas is that before people come to the meeting, they have got to prepare.
Right.
They've got to have their talking point. They've got to know what they're supposed to contribute and what is expected of each and every person who is going to be participating in the meeting. So now when you've got a meeting that there's no agenda, it's going to be ineffective.
Highly.
Yes, because you want to start brainstorming and thinking there, but maybe someone is already thinking of the children at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you are not if you're not aware of the agenda as well, that's where in most cases you come to the meeting and you are just being informed. You are not necessarily being asked to cooperate. So it's very important to have an agenda, but then be able to communicate that agenda before time. All right. Another problem is poor reporting processes. Still something that can be solved by church administration, right? Because I think now, looking at reporting processes, I think it stems again in the area of communication that you're talking about. So you realize that administration comes in to put up communication structures. Besides communication structures, administration sets up organizational structures, which include how people are supposed to communicate according to their different hierarchies. So when we're looking at how people are supposed to communicate, we're talking about who communicates what and to who and at what time. Who reports to who and in what format or on what platform. Right? That entails the whole communication structure, which is a part of the organizational structure in itself. So you have all these different structures, even the financial structure, how the systems of financial administration are laid out, looking at finances from the way that finances are being communicated to the people, looking at how money is being collected, looking at even how money gets to be counted, looking at how money gets to be recorded, the record management of financial administration, looking at how those finances are going to be banked, looking at even how that money is going to be used to do certain purchases, right? Looking at even how at the end of the day money that is left can be invested by the church, looking at even the insurance of the particular gadgets or the particular assets that are being procured by the church in itself. So all those structures are being put up by administration,
Since you're talking about structures, Bevan, and the ways of reporting, I also feel that it is important to have the church governance also in place since we are talking about structure. Because when we are talking about governance, and I think it's another problem that many churches encounter, that there is no church governance. So when you've got a governance body in the church, now you know that the leadership of the church, they are held accountable to that board. And it is very important. That's when you would see that the budget, before the church goes on to procure
be spending
the money, they've got to report to the board, and the board has got to approve it before anything happens. Because wherever there are finances and wherever there are human beings or human resources, there is need for that management. There is need for that accountability. And I feel that every church has got to have a board.
They have to have a board. And the board in itself has to function to assure that the church is being accountable
and there is transparency.
Right. You see, I've associated with so many men of God, and I've heard some men of God being a bit skeptical about the church board, right? They feel like the church board will control them, right? But I think it's in the whole aspect of governance. It is how the board is placed and how the board functions, right? The board does not necessarily control the leadership of the church, but the board comes in to just hold the leadership of the church accountable to the standards that the leadership and the board would have set for the good of the church in itself.
Because actually the board is there to provide resources. Because in the more diverse the board is, the more effective the governance is going to be. Because in that board you're going to have maybe your legal people. And in this day and age, the churches, they are operating in an environment whereby they're expected to be legally compliant. So when you've got someone in the board who is going to be giving you that sort of information or advising, it would be really a plus for the church. So instead of looking at the board as a controlling mechanism, it would be best to look at it as a resource center. A resource,
more of an advisory board in a sense. Wow, that's really amazing. And you know, as you're talking about that, I've just remembered, even as we're talking about communication structures, one of the issues we've just talked about internal communication, but there's an issue with external communication within the church. Most churches nowadays, you know, there's a lot of skeptical articles that you can find in the newspaper, in TV programs, over the news, you know, comments that are being made, and there are so many issues that the church is being, accused of doing, and pastors being accused of doing. But it is, you know, you find very little occasions where the church is able to then communicate back to the people, to the stakeholders, to say, we don't have anything to do with what was mentioned by this paper or what was mentioned by this individual, or at least to clarify, you know, the public relations part of communication. Most churches don't have that established. So you can now find people always talking about churches, always saying, blaming people for certain things. You know, like in our newspapers, every day, every week, you always have some really disturbing articles that are being written about the church, but you hardly find the churches themselves. We're not talking about the overseeing bodies of the churches, but we're talking about the churches themselves establishing PR functions within their church that are able to communicate to the stakeholders.
And that is what administration has to offer.
Administration has to offer that. And look at it, if that is not there, there is a bad vibe about what the church is all about to the people that are supposed to be brought within the church. So at the end of the day, not having a PR function within the church actually affects church growth, because the people you are targeting to bring in the church are already being targeted by those external media platforms, and they are telling them a certain story about the church, yet you don't or are not able to say anything about that, to stand and defend them. So it's very important to have that external communication function as well. But another thing that we have here is the aspect of unskilled personnel. Unskilled personnel, that is the leaders, the administrators themselves.